some calibers, you can go and you can shoot a pie plate at 100 yards and it's big enough to get a freaking 338 Lapua or something crazy.
Right.
But I don't know, 6.5 Creedmoor, that's one that everybody was like, we hate 6.5s. And it's great for what it was made for.
Yeah.
But not when you start trying to do stuff that it wasn't made for. It'll do the job. I killed a lot of deer and several hogs with it, but there's better rounds for it.
Yeah, and I've heard it called the 6.5 bleed more. But I can actually speak on the 6.5 Creedmoor a good bit because it kind of came out back whenever we were big into the shooting competition stuff. And the cool thing about it, and the reason it got so popular, is because Hornady made very good ammunition for it.
Yeah.
Back then there wasn't good ammunition. In general terms, not to run anybody in the ground, but affordable, good ammunition was not available. And kind of the 6.5 Creedmoor was the first thing that came out that was made for, and it was good for competition and whatever. Well, it just became natural that people hunted with it. I mean, it's a 6.5, it's a 140 grain bullet, and it does the job, but you have to put it where it needs to be. The bullet needs to go where it needs to be. I mean, that's what my son hunts with. We've not lost anything. Because he shoots things where he's supposed to shoot them, but there's a lot of practice that goes into that. So, to your point, if you're not going to be precise, you probably need something a little bigger. Yeah. Than a 6.5 Creedmoor. So.
Yeah. Well, before we get into it too deep, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody. Pull that mic in just a touch. Okay. I didn't even tell you that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So,
yes.
Tell us who you are.
So I'm Dustin Morris. I'm from Rayville. 41 years old. Born and raised in Rayville, went to high school or junior high and high school at OCS, Mississippi State educated in college, and got a wife, Ashley, been married almost 20 years, 3 kids, Addie's 16, Kimber's 15, and Audrey's 12.
Yep. So you're my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. That's how we know this.
That is a fact. So we're like distantly related some way.
Yeah, I like you better than I like Jake, so I hope Jake's listening to this. He knows that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a secret.
No, everybody likes you more than they like Jake.
That's right, in fact.
No, I love Jake. You started flying, Jake said.
Yeah. We were flying around and had been, my father-in-law's flown forever and just really enjoyed it. So I spent a lot of time in small airplanes with him. And, as time went on, it's kind of like, it is complicated and it's hard and you got to pursue it, but why not try to do it? Right. Why just be a passenger princess, figure it out and do it yourself. So I kind of took that up and have really been pushing myself to get better at that and got my private and got an instrument rating. And so I'm just kind of pursuing that and having a lot of fun doing it.
So on top of farming, on top of all the long range shooting, on top of taking care of your house and your wife and your kids and everything, let's throw something else into the mix.
That's right. Yeah. I kind of, I quit. I like to say I retired because you say you quit something, it sounds bad, but when I quit long range shooting or quit the competition side, there was a long hiatus there that I really didn't have any hobbies. I just worked. Yeah. And I love work. I mean, I'm one of the few people that you'll meet that just loves what I do. I really enjoy farming. It's all I've ever known. But I've really learned to love this flying deal too. Because I see a lot of parallels with flying and shooting. You're never perfect. There's always room for improvement. You're always chasing something better to do better. You always get to reflect back and say, man, if I'd have done that a little bit different, it would have worked a little bit better and maybe next time or whatever. So I see a lot of parallels with those two. Yeah.
Well, both of them are fun. I'm not good at either. I love to shoot long range. I love to shoot long range archery. That's what I like, which you're talking about stretching it at 120 yards and then you're not grouping super, super tight, or I'm not grouping super tight, but like long range shooting, I can stretch it on out there a good bit, but not like what y'all do. It's a different level.
It is. But look, long range archery is probably harder than long range rifle shooting, honestly.
I don't know. Neither one of them are easy.
Right.
But having the right gear, that's another thing too, though. Like one of the things I want to talk about is like gear in general, but calibers, what are different things that can just make it easier for you. But man, you can go and you can get a Ruger Predator or American, whatever those are, and a 6.5 Creedmoor, a $500 rifle, and then put a decently nice piece of glass on top, and you get in a 6.5 Creedmoor or another flat shooting fast round. And dude, 600-700 yards, you'll be surprised at what you could do.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, rifles are no different than anything else. You get 90% for 10% of the money. So you get that Ruger RPR and a decent scope. 20 years ago, the decent scope wasn't available at a decent price.
Right.
There was a big step because what you were buying is you're buying glass quality for one, and two, you're buying the internals that actually work, right? Mm-hmm. They're repeatable. They all worked eventually, but you'd knock on them to make them move a little bit. So you need something that goes back to zero every time. Well, as technology has progressed, this manufacturing has gotten so much better. So to your point, you can spend just this fraction of the money to have a minute of angle gun. Yeah. And we all want quarter-minute guns, right?
Yeah. So
you want something that just shoots ragged holes at 100 yards, and we want to shoot, less than 4-inch vertical spreads at 1,000. Well, you spend 10 times the money to get that. Yeah. When the truth is that 1 inch will kill anything, and that's available today. At a reasonable price. And it used to not be that way. So it's a great time to be in the shooting sports or hunting. The things are on. I mean, I know everything is more expensive, but that is not more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah, it's as cheap now as it's ever been.
That's right.
To get into that kind of stuff.
To get into that and have something of high quality is as cheap now as it's ever been, in my opinion.
So caliber-wise, when you were shooting really longer distance, and even like now, what is your caliber of choice? And this is strictly just shooting. This is not trying to knock a deer or elk down. This is just shooting.
So this is, probably to a lot of the people that listen to this will be a little bit shocked. So in the competition world, and kind of what we did, what it's called today is the Precision Rifle Series. And so what it is a tactical type long-range shooting. And it's morphed to be different things along the way, but you're shooting from improvised positions. Sometimes you're prone. Sometimes it's off of a table. Sometimes it's off of a car hood. Sometimes it's standing off of a ladder, right? And so you're just trying to get steady. But in general terms, a 6 millimeter of some sort is what everybody shoots, because you want low recoil. You want high velocity, but you don't want extreme velocity because you'll burn your barrels out too fast. So, and we go through barrels fast, or I did. Because we shoot a lot, we had to practice a lot. So my personal round that I shot back when I was really at it hot and heavy was a 6XC. A guy by the name of David Tubb. He created that round. It's essentially a 22-250 blown out to 6 millimeter. That's what I shot. And they've got, 6 BR. They call them a BRX, or they call it different things, but they'll blow shoulders out on these little bitty cases to get a little bit more capacity. But it's all about recoil management and accuracy and recoil management. So you don't want to shoot the big heavies, the big Magnums. And so that's kind of the way I've always shot. Is I like low recoil with good accuracy. And then obviously we're just trying to hit a piece of steel. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what kind of energy you hit it with. Yeah. So something in the 6 millimeter world is kind of dominates the anything competition wise.
So I don't think this is the case, but I know you're saying you don't want to shoot your bigger Magnum cartridge. You don't want to shoot freaking 300 Win Mag out there, not doing what you're doing. You don't want that because of recoil, but those bigger, you got a bigger bigger projectile being flown through the air. Are those less accurate than something like a smaller, like 6 millimeter or anything like that?
Well, inherently no. A 300 Win Mag is an extremely capable and accurate round. There's nothing wrong with it, with the right guy driving it in the right situation. But if you're going to shoot 200 rounds in 2 days, you're going to take a pounding.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to do it. And I've seen people try it. I'm talking about grown men, special operations guys that their unit would deploy them with a 300 Win Mag. So therefore they would come to a competition with a 300 Win Mag. It didn't end well, and nobody's making fun of them because everybody knows it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
They're going to take a pounding. There's nothing wrong with the gun, but shooting is about knowing where your bullet went so that you can correct for the next shot. And with a 300 Win Mag, and we're picking on the Win Mag right now, but we could name off a lot of other calibers, same thing. You can't stay in the scope. You can't know where that bullet went. And if you do, everything's perfect. And your form's perfect, where you are is perfect, all that. Well, in the real world, that never happens.
Yeah, well, and like a 300, there's a lot of people that shoot 300s around here or everywhere for deer. They'll shoot a freaking 80-pound doe with one, just mow her down. And that's fine, right on, but like you're going to get a beating, but you're not knowing where it's going, like where that bullet's going or where it tracked to and how to make that correction. But most people are shooting 100 yards, 150 yards, and they're not trying to they don't need the accuracy that you're talking about, that what a lot of people get. And so it may not be its place at a PRS match, but on the side of a mountain or something, shooting a hog or a deer or an elk or whatever else, 500-600 yards, it'll achieve that greatly.
Yeah. My dad says they kill on one end and wound on the other.
That sounds like Todd.
Yeah. So that's his. I love hearing him say that, and I kind of know when it's coming. Because he's an anti-Magnum guy.
Okay.
He likes low recoil, precision. Of course, I guess that makes sense. My brother and I did all that together, and all three of us did. That was kind of our family deal. But so he's real big on things that are extremely accurate and not dealing with recoil, because recoil leads to poor form. It leads to poor shots. It's why these tracking dogs make a living.
Yep. Or the new thermal drones.
Or the thermal drones.
They're picking on up.
Yeah. You could, if a guy would spend $200 a year on ammo, he probably wouldn't need the drone.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. So, we got a lot of shot placement problems.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the new calibers? Like the 22 Creedmoor, for example. And that's one that I think it's like 20, is it Sammy or... I'm talking about stuff I don't really know what I'm talking about.
They came out with a 22 Creedmoor. So a 6 Creedmoor was the first Creedmoor other than the 6.5. And it's just essentially a neck down 6.5 to 6 millimeter. It was built to compete with what I shot, which was the 6XC. It's got a little bit more case capacity. Well, somebody somewhere decided, it would be fun. Let's make it down to 22 caliber and shoot something really fast. So, because there are some great 22 caliber bullets if you're hand loading. And I'm not up on what's available to buy at the store in 22 Creedmoor. I don't even know if that's I
don't think there's anything available.
I wouldn't think it's much.
If it is, it's not much.
Yeah. So, people are going to hand load 75 grain burgers, 80 grain burgers. Burger makes a 90, but you start getting up to 90, you're almost back to 6 millimeter weight, so you're losing your speed. So kind of the idea, to answer your question on the 22 Creedmoor, it's a bad Mohican if you want to shoot coyotes and other varmints. But it's just a really fast, flat bullet. So it gives you a lot of ability to be wrong.
Yeah.
And you're just, you're point and click to 300, and at 400, you don't have to be really good. You know, and that's kind of the deal when you get out in the real world, and that from archery, you've got to know how far something is. Inside of 20, it doesn't matter with a bow. It's kind of like that with a rifle. Inside of 200, you're good. Well, after that, you got to know how far it is. And if you don't know how far it is, you better have something that's really flat.
Yeah.
So a 22 Creedmoor definitely checks some boxes there. It doesn't carry a lot of energy. Wouldn't recommend it for whitetail. But,
yeah. And there's videos out, like you just type on YouTube, 22 Creedmoor hunting, and Muley Freak, he's one of them. He shot some mule deer with it, like 400 or 500 yards, and a black bear at like 300 or 400 yards, some whitetail and stuff. But it goes back to the shot placement.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So my son Kimber, who's 15, and yes, his name's Kimber. You know that. But anyhow, he shot everything in North America with a 223 until a couple of years ago. And so I was hand loading him 75 grain Hornady AMAXs, but it was about shot placement. He shot everything in the neck shoulder junction and a little bit high. And and to this day, he doesn't know that 100 yards and 600 yards are different. He just knows to put the crosshairs on it and that I got it covered.
Yeah.
Right? His form is excellent. And so I have zero qualms about him shooting something at 600 yards because he knows what he's doing. And I know what I'm doing to make sure that his data is right based on the environment and all that. And his form's going to be good. And so he's going to do it. So to your point, the 22 Creedmoor will kill a mule deer at 600 yards if you're hitting it on the button.
Yeah.
There's
a lot that can go wrong in between zero or muzzle and 600 yards.
Yeah. So just, in the spirit of full disclosure, I talk about Kimber shooting now a 6.5 Creedmoor, and we did find this deer. But just recently, he and I went to Oklahoma together on a hunt, and we did a kind of a spot stalk late one afternoon. And we got this deer to within like 370, and we're walking in a field, and we had a tripod. And the deer was quartering to us. And so he didn't have that perfect shot, right? He's standing on a tripod in the middle of a wheat field, and the deer's at 370 yards. And normally he knows to shoot it in front of the shoulder, in the neck, and a little bit high, and he's going to melt it. Well, it was getting dark. We're breathing hard, all the things that go into real world stuff. And anyways, he shot the deer. I saw the deer go down. It instantly hit the ground. It's, a suppressed rifle. So you hear the bullet impact. It sounded solid. I was like, oh, we're going to find the deer. Well, we went to that location. There's no deer. There's no blood. There's nothing. We found it the next day with a thermal drone. He hit it perfectly in the shoulder, but I didn't have him enough gun to be shooting 370 yards and not shoot it in the neck shoulder junction and a little bit high. And that was kind of my light bulb moment of, okay, I need to do better. If he'd have been shooting a bonded bullet, that probably would have worked out, but he wasn't. Or if he'd have been shooting something big, it would have worked out. And so, that was an aha moment for me of, hey, this has all worked. He's always been able to kill stuff with a 223. Now he shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor, and it's always worked. Well, it didn't work today.
Yeah.
We got the deer, but it was only because a guy came with a thermal drone the next day and found it, and we were able to track it and finish him off. So
yeah. So what did you learn from that? Are you bumping him up to a bigger caliber now, or are you bullet, or what are you doing?
I'm probably going to just change his bullet. I haven't done anything yet. I'm probably going to just start handling. I kind of went with the 6.5 Creedmoor because, like I said, you got the affordable, really good ammunition. So I'm probably going to change that. My dad loves to hand load, so I'll probably just have him hand load him some bonded bullets. And so therefore, if we need to shoot something directly in the shoulder or behind the shoulder, it's got enough that it's going to stay together. I mean, I found that whole bullet right behind the skin where it hit bone. It just disintegrated and it didn't penetrate. I mean, it was a great shot, but it didn't do any damage.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that deer would have survived or not. I mean, he was a three-legged deer essentially. So to answer your question, he really likes his gun, and I don't want to change him up. He's comfortable with it. So I'm probably just going to change the bullet.
Yeah.
And I'll feel a lot better about it with a good bonded bullet.
Yeah. So just let him just shoot bonded bullets just across the board at everything.
Yeah.
So what's going to be the benefit of a bonded bullet shooting them like you're standing in front of the shoulder? I always shoot them just high shoulder. Like when I'm rifle hunting, I just want them to drop. And so the best place I found, shoot them high in the shoulder. But you're talking about in front of the shoulder.
And high. So kind of the neck shoulder junction.
Okay.
And I don't know, I mean, obviously when that bullet goes in, it's fragging.
Yeah.
And it's getting a lot into that spinal column, and it just drops them. He knows, and I know, there might need to be a follow-up shot, through behind the shoulder, to get it in the heart and finish it off if it needs to. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. But to me, 140 grain bullet going 2,800 feet a second, it's not a slouch.
Mm-mm.
It's not. And so if you're within 500 yards, there is ample energy to kill with if you've got a bullet that'll penetrate and not just frag, which the 140 AMAX, and even though they call the 140 ELDX a hunting bullet, I'm not a big believer in it. It shoots well, and I'm not trashing Hornady, but it's not built to penetrate. And so get something that'll go deeper and actually put that energy into the vitals, not just bone. So, and as he gets bigger, maybe we get something, but right now I don't want him shooting anything with recoil.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of that. I think that develops bad habits. He doesn't have bad habits. He's never shot anything without a suppressor since he was walking. He's always been suppressed, and it's always been low recoil, and therefore he's not scared of it, So, I think I'm going to stay right there for now.
Yeah. If you were to go to something else, like bump up, what would it be?
I think the next logical choice is a 7 PRC.
Yeah.
I'm a huge 7mm guy. I mean, you look at bullets and ballistic coefficients and stuff like that. I mean, a 7mm is just it.
Yeah.
I have them all. I've got a 6.5 PRC, and it's a great round. I mean, I can't say anything bad about a 6.5 PRC. If somebody's got one, I mean,
that's what I hunt with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hammer
most of the time.
It's a hammer. You know, a 6.5 PRC with a really good bullet is going to kill everything in North America. You know, I got a 300 PRC. I shoot a 225 out of it, and it's a man. But you got to be a man too, because even with a good suppressor on it, I mean, it's got some push. You know, it's not snappy, but it's got some push. But I like the 7. It's just kind of right there in the middle. But if you look at it on paper, the 300 doesn't really carry much more energy at distance than the 7. 7's a little flatter, so you get to be a little bit more wrong, you know.
Have that room for error.
Have that room for error. You're shooting a 175 to 180 versus a 212 or a 225. So you're not dealing with as much recoil. So, you know, probably the next stop for him is going to be a 7 PRC. And you really literally can shoot anything in North America from, I mean, brown bears to elk to moose, anything. I mean, there's nothing that you're not going to be comfortable shooting with a 7.
Yeah. So I'm not as big of a rifle guy as I was in the years past, just because I picked up archery multiple years ago, and that's kind of scratching that itch right now. And so I'll go back to where I want to shoot more rifles at distance and having fun with it. But multiple of my friends, they know that I've been waiting on this. And I think I even told you a while back, I'm like, I'm holding off. I don't remember whose birthday it was, but at Jake's house, I was like, I'm holding off on buying a rifle so I can sit down with you and like pick your brain on it all. And
right.
Because not just from rifle, but also caliber, like the 7 PRC, you told me about that, and I started looking into it. And that's I think the route that I want to go. But I don't remember the caliber. Jake at Spotted Dog, he told me the other day that there was a caliber. His thought behind it, he's like, man, it's, you know, bad to the bone, and we're selling a ton of it and ship the ammo, like doing a lot of that stuff in the 7 PRC and even the 300 PRC. But he said there was a caliber like 15 or 20 years ago that just took everybody by storm. I don't remember which one it was. I don't remember, but it was a very, very, very popular caliber.
Probably a 7 STW. If it was a 7.
I don't think it was I would have remembered if it was a STW. I don't think it was that, but whatever it was, he said, man, like our reps told us like it was incredibly popular 15, 20 years ago. And like every redneck, that's what a lot of them went and got, but it kind of faded out.
Yeah. And I think that's natural.
Yeah.
Because it's like a car, right? People don't get new cars because their car's worn out. They get a new car because they want a new car. It's the same thing with a guy with a rifle. You just get bored with what you got. You want to go get something else, which is great for the Spotted Dog because you get some return business. Yeah. If people only bought the rifles that they needed, you wouldn't sell many rifles.
No. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think and the reason we're saying PRC and not Winchester Short Magnum or 7mm Remington Magnum is because of the ammunition availability and the quality. It's just so much better than the other stuff. If you look at them on paper, there's not a lot separating those things.
Like a 7mm Ren Mag.
That's right.
Ren Mag versus a 7 PRC.
I mean, it's tit for tat. You know, it's close. But 7 PRC it seems to be more inherently accurate, but I think that's more based on the ammunition that's available than case design. And that's what Hornady has done a phenomenal job of, is branding these guns based on an ammunition, you know, or they know they can create this ammunition, and they do, and they put the guns out, and, you know, they've used the competition world to launch a lot of that stuff, and then it becomes mainstream. And, you know, that's kind of my thoughts on the 6.5, the 7, and the 300. I mean, they check different boxes for sure, but the ammo is the key, you know, to that. And I think that's kind of what's created separation between them and other calibers.
Yeah. You go to Spotted Dog and buy some ammo for a 7 PRC. Just buy it off the shelf, not hand reload. Most people don't reload their stuff.
Yeah.
What are you looking to buy?
I'm looking to buy like a 175 or 180, and I think it's a ELDX. They have a 180 match and a 175 ELDX, and I may have those backwards, but it's a 175 or a 180, and I don't hand load anymore either. Daddy loves it, but he doesn't have kids at home, and that's kind of his deal. And he enjoys hand loading and shooting groups and shooting them over a chronograph, And it's just something he loves. And if I wanted him to do it for me, he would do it in a heartbeat. You know, just take him a rifle and get the components, and he's going to get the best stuff. But, I mean, literally, that's what I do now. Is I may go buy one box of the 175s and one box of the 180s to go with, you know, whatever new rifle it is, and see which one of them shoots better, and, you know, look at them. And sometimes you may have a gun that shoots good, or ammo that shoots good at 100. But if you're shooting it over a chronograph, you may see that your extreme spreads are really wild. And so maybe that ammunition's not the powder charges or the neck tension or whatever it is that could be causing those extreme spreads. You don't want that. It might shoot good at 100, but it's not going to shoot good at distance if it's got a big extreme spread. So you kind of look at those two things. But the point is, I'd buy a box of each. Whichever one of them shot better, go back and buy a bunch more of that. Yeah. And don't worry about it. Yeah. You know, just go with it. Yeah.
So a while ago you said, like in the 6.5 Creedmoor, you're talking about like the ELDX. It's a great shooting round, but it may not be the best hunting round. So you're really referring to just something like lower, I guess, energy, something like the Creedmoor, but like for the 7 PRC, having that extra ump to it and that bigger grain, you think it's...
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, because... And like I said, I don't have any scientific studies behind what I'm saying about that ELDX. I'm just listening to a lot of people talk that I trust, that have shot stuff and kind of the results they've seen. But when you go to the 7, it's got so much horsepower that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's blowing through.
The kinetic energy is going to knock them down. If it was to disintegrate on the shoulder, you're still going to find them right there because the energy of it's just going to blow them down. Yeah. You know, it's a sledgehammer where the other one's like a little ball peen. You know, it's hitting with some authority.
Yeah. Have you seen the 458 SOCOMs?
I've not ever shot one, but I have seen them.
So there's a video on YouTube. This guy, and you may have seen it, I don't know, but he's launching like 400 or 500 grain bullets out of that 458 SOCOM, deer hunting out in this, like, maybe it's a wheat field or some kind of grass field. And he is launching them at hundreds of yards, 400, 500, 600 yards, if I remember correctly. And one of them, he's like, had a 30-foot drop to it. It's insane. But he's launching it. I think it's subsonic. I think
probably. I mean, that's not a
no, it's got to be subsonic. So yeah, never mind. It's definitely subsonic for sure. But so he's shooting and it's lobbing like some of them in 30, some cases 30 feet from what the video shows. But when it hits them, it just blows them in half, and it's the most awesome. It's the most awesome thing.
I've checked that out. I've never seen that.
It's really cool. But I bring that up. I've been thinking about, we're in primitive season for a lot of the units here in North Louisiana. Like, are y'all primitive over there yet, or is it still rifle?
I think it's still rifle.
Through like Sunday, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. And then maybe through the end of the month, it's primitive after that.
I think
for a certain period of time.
Yeah. I would love to get one, but I'm like, dude, I'm not going to shoot it enough. Like, I've had fun taking Vaughn out and taking him hunting, and we've killed 2 deer, so 2 does with that 6.5 PRC and suppressed, and it's great taking him out. I have so much fun doing it. But I'm like, man, as much as I love bow hunting, I don't really want to bow hunt the rest of the season. Like, I want to take him with me, and I could bow hunt in some of the box blinds that we have or whatever, but I was like, I really want to take him and do some primitive stuff. And so I've been looking, I'm like, man, it's right after Christmas. I got a ton of gift cards to Spot a Dog. And I've been looking at like their 4570. And you can get that. Hornady makes a Sub X 410 grain Subsonic 4570. And you're talking about like a man.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm like, dude, that'd be so awesome. Put that hybrid 46 on there. But it's 30. So with 100 yard zero, because velocity is going to be like, 1,050. Like, it's got to be subsonic.
It's going to be under 1,050.
Yeah, it's going to be under 1,050. And so, and that's feet per second, by the way, but it's going to be under 1,050 feet per second. With 100 yard zero, going up to 200, it's dropping like 34.8 or 33.8 inches.
Yeah,
200.
That's what I was going to comment on that. So I haven't done it in a lot of years, but we played with subsonic 308 stuff a lot. And so that's what I was going to tell you is, that's not a bad idea. That sounds like a ton of fun, but like you need 5 yard accuracy.
Yeah.
And you need to have at least shot that gun on 10 yard increments and documented what you got, because it's like throwing a brick.
410 grains, dude.
Yeah. As our joke is on anything like that, we call it the BC of a brick, the ballistic coefficient of a brick. I mean, that's what it's going to be. It's 1,000. I mean, you might as well say that's like shooting 4 9mm bullets together at 45 ACP speeds. I mean, it's 245 ACPs, at just slow. I mean, so you're going to, I think it's a great idea. That sounds like a ton of fun.
It sounds fun.
But you better have your rangefinder and have it working, and hopefully their head's in a pile of corn. Hopefully you can bait wherever you are. But,
and we can, but like the ground at Oak Ridge that I would want to go and take it to, I'm like, man, the problem is though, is you have deer, they will range from 20 yards, or they may be 500-600 yards down, down through there. And I'm like, man, that's as fun as it would be. I would use it. I'm not going to do it early season. Like right. I'm going to bow hunt. And if I want to take Vine, then yeah, I would do it. But really thinking about it right now, I'm like, man, if I got that, it'd be cool. But I've also been thinking about getting a new rifle and getting a carbon barrel and all that fun stuff, and getting like a super nice lure pole to put on top and everything. Right. I'm like, I don't know how much more I would use it, but I think I'd rather have that.
It'd be a lot. You'd rather have the new rifle with the carbon barrel?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have like a 7 PRC than I would.
I agree. I mean, I think that's a niche deal, and it would be fun to have for sure. And just for those that haven't been around suppressors, it's not like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Right now.
But with what you're describing, that's Hollywood quiet stuff.
Yeah.
The bullet hitting the animal or a tree or anything else will make a lot more noise than when it left the gun.
I mean, it's crazy because there's videos on YouTube of people filming it. And I mean, some of these cats, they're not editing and they don't have the capabilities to really go and edit to make things quieter and run different filters like I can on stuff. Like us, like that window units in there is running right now and we can hear it through the mics. People listening, they're not going to hear this.
Right.
You can do that to those bullets, and a lot of times that's what people do to make them sound quieter on their hunting videos. But these rednecks, they're out there having fun with that 410 grain 4570 sub X, filming it with their dang Motorola Razr from 25 years ago.
Right.
And it's like, I'm talking about whisper.
Yeah, it's
like crazy.
Yeah, the primer hits and that's it. I mean, it's amazing what a subsonic bullet with a suppressor is capable. I mean, you got to be really good to make it work.
Yeah.
But my goodness, they're quiet, so really cool deal.
So go into a, like me, for example, I'm going to be selfish for a second, but I keep looking at the 7 PRC and we're just about to get off and go to something. I want to talk about carbon barrels next, but like the 7 PRC, already have a 6.5 PRC. Almost feel like it's kind of dumb for me to go to a 7 PRC. I'm shooting, like right now I shoot the 143 ELDX on one of these and that 6.5 PRC. For the most part, I haven't had any issues with it. It almost seems like the closer the deer are, the less damage it really does to them. I feel like that bullet does better at longer distances. That may be the way it's designed. I'm really not sure, but I feel like that's the case. But is it dumb going from something like a 6.5 PRC, shooting 143 grain bullet, to a 7 PRC at a 180 or 175 or 180?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, it's kind of like I said earlier. It's the natural thing.
Yeah.
Right? You want to do something new, and do you need a 7 PRC to shoot whitetail? No. But if you were to get invited to go hunt some exotic in Texas or an elk in Colorado or New Mexico, a 6.5 PRC will do it, but a 7 PRC will certainly do it better.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're crazy for thinking that way. It would really be nice. It'd be a lot of fun. And you're talking about the difference between 140 grain and 180, essentially. So it's a lot more bullet.
Yeah.
It's only a half of a millimeter, but it's a lot more bullet. And so, no, I don't think so.
And they're pushing about the same speeds too, aren't they? Like they're both like 29 or pushing 3?
Yeah, in that neighborhood. Yeah. I think mine's 2,900. I have to look at my stuff, but I mean, yeah, the 6.5 may be a little bit faster, but it's not going to retain that energy and that speed very, very nearly as long, because a 7, the ballistic coefficient on it's just so much better.
Yeah. So at what point when you get with like bullet and then like weight, do you start get that diminishing return? Like going from a 6.5 PRC to a 7 PRC, a 7 PRC is going to carry it more, whereas that little bit lighter bullet, it's just not. But if you go to a 300 PRC, it's not that big of a difference, you said. And it is, but it's not as big of a difference maybe from the 6.5 PRC to the 7 and then the 7 to the 300. Is it a less bridge right there, like let's go.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a lot bigger step between the 6.5 and the 7 than the 7 and the 300. The 300 has a good bit more energy up close, and it retains a little bit more energy downrange, but I mean, it's marginal. I actually looked at that before I walked in here because I was genuinely curious myself, So it is a little bit better, but to me, I say better. It's better at retaining energy by a little bit, but you're dealing with so much more recoil, burning so much more powder. It's just if I'd have brought the cases in here and you put them on the table for the guys to see, that 300's a monster.
Yeah.
The 7's good size, but the 300 is a monster. So, to me, the 7's just a great all around, choice. And I don't think you're getting a whole lot more going to a 300.
Yeah. What about recoil on it?
The recoil's a lot more on a 300.
Yeah. So on the 7, like relative to like a 6.5 Creedmoor, it's the reason Kimber shoots it because and a lot of people shoot it for young kids, not much recoil, but on the 7 PRC compared to like a 6.5 PRC.
It's more. It's physics.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's just got to be. Now, it seems like more often than not, when you get a bigger caliber rifle, you get a little bit heavier rifle. And so that starts offsetting some of that recoil, It's not one of those that kills on one end and wounds on the other kind of deal. It's pretty manageable.
Yeah.
But it's certainly got more recoil than a 6.5.
Yeah. So talking about weight goes into the next topic I want to bring up is carbon barrels.
Okay.
You shoot carbon?
I do have a few carbon barrels. Yeah.
So I don't know all the benefits between them, but like why would someone, other than looking cool, because they're sick looking, like carbon on everything looks better.
Right.
But why would you want to go with the carbon barrel over a steel barrel?
Weight. That's it. I don't care what anybody says about accuracy, rigidity, any of that. That doesn't hold water. And there is risk involved, right? They all start out steel. Mm-hmm. And they basically, with a lathe, the way I understand it, I've never seen this done. So if somebody's got proof, viewers out there don't say, well, he's lying. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm admitting right now, I really don't know 100%. But the way I understand it, they all start as a stainless steel barrel. And they put them in a lathe and they turn that down, that section, and then they put the carbon fiber on it, which adds the rigidity back to it and all that. But it's a fraction of the weight of the steel. So, you run a certain amount of risk in that during that process, something could go wrong and you lose some accuracy, during the process. Anytime you change something from the way it started, there's risk.
Yeah.
But, so to me, I've not seen any evidence that says they're more accurate. They're certainly not going to last longer. I've read, well, they dissipate heat better. That's not true.
Really?
I don't think so.
Those are the two things that I've heard is that carbon barrels, and I've seen this on people's websites that sell rifles. I'm going to call them out, but it's easy to find. Their carbon rifles or carbon barrels, they're more accurate than their steel barrels.
I'd really struggle to believe that.
And if just say it was, say that they are telling the truth. You think it's more of like a selling point that it might be, but it's so marginal. It's just enough for them to be able to say it and push it maybe.
Yeah, and look, all statistics are manipulated.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell the whole truth all the time. Those carbon barrels are expensive. I have some. I like them, but we hadn't talked about why I like them. I like them for weight. And you say, hey man, it really only saved a pound.
Yeah.
Well, one of the guys that I trained with back in the day, he always used to say, ounces make pounds, pounds make pain. And so if you save a pound on your barrel and you save 6 ounces going from a old school suppressor, or actually it'd be a lot more than 6 ounces, but if you went from one of the OG suppressors that felt like, you're
full of water.
Yes, that full of water. I've got one. If you run out of bullets, you take that off and you start hitting somebody with it. You're going to do some good, to a Silencer Co. scythe, which is just a few ounces. So you got your pound here and a pound there, and now now you take and you buy one of these really nice actions it's got the integral rail on top, but it's not solid. It's just integral on either end, and it's got the opening in the middle. you get another few ounces. Next thing you know, you got 3 or 4 pounds.
Yeah.
And that 3 or 4 pounds starts mattering when you're in the mountains.
Yeah. 1 pound's not that big of a difference. Like I told you, that Ridge Carbon, if I was to go and buy a rifle this very second right now that is made in the 7 PRC, it'd be that Bergara, it's the Ridge Carbon. And I think it's like, I may be wrong on my price, but it's like $1,200 or $1,300, $1,400, I think is about what it is. But it's maybe half to 3/4 of a pound lighter, maybe closer to 3/4 of a pound lighter than the regular Ridge. I don't know if the barrel length is any different. It may be shorter on the Carbon. I'm not sure. But anyhow, it's like 3/4-ish of a pound, but it's like $300 or $400 cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know if 3/4 of a pound's worth $400. Yeah. I mean, that'd be a hard sell.
Yeah.
Now maybe there's a cool factor worth $300.
They'd look awesome.
I mean, we pay more for less.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about what makes you happy. You feel good, you shoot good.
Yeah, that is true. There's been more fish caught on a white spinnerbait and a watermelon red brush hog than anything else ever made.
Yep.
So people get comfortable with it, and that's what they want. That's what they want. That's what they go with.
So, that's kind of, when I walk through the Spotted Dog and I'm looking at, the gun selection, even with all the history I have with all these custom rifles, I'm still going to be drawn to the ones that look better.
Yeah.
And I think that's just natural.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, is $300. You're already spending a lot of money. I'm not trying to discount $300 because $300 is a lot of money, but if that's what you want and you also save 3/4 of a pound, probably worth it.
Win, baby.
Yeah.
So why are we talking so much about PRC? Like we've talked a ton about,
because it's the new thing. It's the new thing. I thought about that too, because it is not lost on me when I walked in here. I knew, even not knowing what we were going to talk about, I knew we would talk about PRCs because that's what everybody's shooting. And it's what's popular. And, it's just where we are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other great things out there. But my challenge is find me these great calibers that also have great ammunition that's affordable.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the one thing I never mentioned about the 6.5 Creedmoor. I may have mentioned it one time. The ammunition was affordable, and it still is affordable relative to everything else.
Yeah.
And so they're not just, the money's in the ammunition. That's where they're making their money, because you selling this affordable ammunition. And gosh, something we hadn't even talked about, and I know this is kind of off subject, but this is what if I want anybody to listen to anything I have to say today, this is what I want somebody to take away is shoot the rifles. Go shoot them. Don't shoot them once a year. Don't go shoot them October, whatever, to make sure that it's sighted in for deer season. Like, learn your rifle.
Yeah.
Shoot the rifle. Spend some money on ammunition. Gosh, you're spending all this money on hunting leases and, corn and food plots and all these things. Like, shoot the rifles, because we need to quit wounding these deer.
That's what it boils down to, is shooting them.
And so to answer your question, why are we talking about 6.5 PRC, 7 PRC, 300 PRC? Well, one, they're cool and they work well, but they got really good ammunition.
Yeah.
And you can go buy it and it's going to shoot well, and you're going to know your rifle better, and you're going to have less wounded deer. And sorry to the guys that got the dogs and the thermal drones, but taking some of your business. If people would practice, they wouldn't have as much business.
Yeah, none of us want to use a dog. My bird dog, that son's got a nose like a bloodhound, and but I don't want to use him. I don't want to use. I'll use him for pheasants and some ducks, but trailing a deer.
Yeah,
I'd rather do like we did with that live scope out there on that one deer. That video got taken down.
Jake told me that, said it kind of sort of gone viral.
Dude, it was a few 100,000 views in like no time. And I guess it just got reported and got taken down. So I went back and I tried to go and put it on there without showing the deer. And because the only time you really showed the deer in the video is when we pulled it out of the water, which I think your dad was filming when I was running the trolling motor on the live scope. And then Patrick, he hooked him and pulled him up. And I think that's the only time you saw the deer was from the bank maybe. And it wasn't much, but I went back to repost it, and I did. And I mean, almost maybe not within minutes, but relatively quick after I posted it, I got a notification from TikTok saying, like account suspension. If we were to keep doing so, it got taken down again. I guess it was too close just by me taking that one little piece out. And so anyhow, we didn't get to put it back up.
That was awesome.
Yes.
That was an awesome time, an awesome video. And has that been talked about on here
No,
yet?
I don't think so.
So I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the kind of where it started it was a Sunday morning. And if I remember right, my wife and some of the kids were out of town. And so I wake up early and I was just sitting on the couch, and my sister, who's married to your brother-in-law, we live on a property together. I live on the south side. They live on the north side. There's less than a mile between us, but I can see their house. They can see mine. My sister texts me and she's like, hey, would you come over here? Jude shot a deer. It went in the river. Jake's going to try to get it out. I don't want him to drown. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm on the way. So I go over, and not really knowing what I'm getting into, other than I knew that, like, I don't know, Jake's kind of wild. And
he's an ag pilot.
He's an ag pilot. He lives life at 180 miles an hour at 5 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
So it was cold. Gosh, it was cold that morning. I thought this dude's going for a swim.
Yeah.
And which would have been fine because odds of drowning when you're swimming in the cold water is pretty low. But I saw he had on waders. I was like, oh gosh. I mean, like if he goes under, I'm not real sure how to save him. Like, I guess I'm just going in, right? I mean, I was. And but luckily he didn't go all the way in. And but you came and saved the day after church. And I mean, just the most redneck thing you could ever do. Just we hooked to a Honda Pioneer and backed this really nice bass boat into Beth River where it's no wider than this studio.
Yeah.
And the kids and everybody's on the boat and I'm on the bank. Somebody's got to tell what happened when y'all flip it, Yeah. And at any rate, the whole thing gets recorded and you find it. My brother hooks it with some sort of treble hook.
It was like alligators.
Yeah.
Like as big. I mean, you're talking about like, that big around, like
right.
6 inches probably, something like that in diameter.
And you were watching that and the deer on the live scope, right? Because I kind of hear y'all talking and you're like, there it is, pull, and you can kind of see him pull and he hooks it. And then it was just a crazy deal.
Yeah, it was. And so again, we just backed the boat into the water, which we were actually headed to church. And I think that's right after, that was after Christmas, wasn't it? Wasn't it after?
I'm not sure.
I was thinking it was. Regardless, I thought it was because I just got back from Kansas. And so I need to spend some time with the family. Like I've been gone for a bit. If I remember the dates right, I just got back from something. I thought it was hunting in Kansas. So I just got back and I mean, we're planning on going and like picking up some fried chicken on the way home from church and then like going to the house, us eating, maybe watching like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and everybody taking a nap. That's kind of what we were planning on doing. And then Jake calls on the way to church. We're on I-20 headed to Sterlington and he's like, hey, what you got going on this afternoon or like after church? I was like, I don't know. I said, I got a plan. I said, but you're about to ruin it. What, I said, what you got? He said, well, Jude shot a deer and it ran into the river and I know about where he's at. And I was out there feeling around for him this morning. I might've found him. I don't know. It's just, I was going to see if you bring your live scope. I'm like, okay. So like behind your house, like the creek. He's like, yeah, like, well, it's Beth River. I was like, do you spit across it? Like, what do you mean? And so anyhow, I got my 18-foot boat with live scope on front and we went and dropped it in and panned around. And Jake was pretty close to where it was and went and saw him on the live scope. And it was awesome. I wish I'd have done a better job at actually filming the screen of that. But dude, it was awesome. We went and I tore the transducer. Still haven't fixed that yet. But
yeah, I was part of that.
My low ranch transducer on the back from the Can-Am Maverick or whatever it was side by side and the Honda Pioneer trying to pull it out.
Yeah, we couldn't get it up.
Yeah, couldn't get it up. So we
took two side by sides. And just so people understand how small Beth River is where we live, it's big on the south end of the parish and it gets bigger and bigger. But literally where my house is a place they call Dorsey Ford. Little history lesson here. And that's like back in the wagon days, that's where they crossed Beth River. That was the shallowest point on Beth River. And so that's where they crossed and they're not far from us. So to your credit, it's kind of a creek.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a river when there's a big rain.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just a little tributary that doesn't do much.
Yeah, if you're fishing, you flip across it pretty easy. Or if you got like a 12 or 14 foot cane pole, you can almost fish the bank on the opposite side.
So we put his really nice bass boat in something that might be a little bigger than a canal. Yeah. That's be the best way.
Flume ditch.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. We had a good time. But I don't remember what we were talking about before that. I don't know. I know we were talking about the like why were we talking about PRCs and stuff, but and carbon barrels, I don't know. But what about the guys going back to the rifles real quick? You're going to have people that they've been hunting with a 308 or 30-06 or 270 forever. Like that's all. And they've killed most everything that they shot with. They're not shooting very far. In some cases they might, but they've been shooting that forever. They probably don't take too kindly of us talking about these being the best. And not that we're disrespecting those rounds, but like my thing, this may be wrong, but do you know when the 30-06, when was that cartridge invented?
I have no idea. I mean, like,
I'm going to Google that real quick.
I mean, I think Carlos Hathcock shot a 30-06, didn't he? Yeah, I think he did. I'm thinking Carlos.
1906.
Yeah.
So you're talking about it was adopted in the year 1906. That's a long time ago. And so if there's been that's always my thing. It wasn't like the 308. Let me look at that before I say something else because I may be wrong. 1952 on the 308. So 1906 on the 30-06, 1952 on the 308. Dude, we're not driving vehicles with carburetors on them still anymore. No. Most four-wheelers and side-by-sides are fuel injected. Like we're not, It's so much better. Those old Honda 300s, they'll still get the job done. And if you have it, that's great. But if you're going to buy something new, you're not going to buy that. You're buying the newer stuff.
There's nothing, especially, I could pick on a 308 all day. I mean, that's a podcast in and of itself. That's a prime example of the military, deciding that something's good and therefore it got deemed to be good. But in fact, it's trash.
Yeah. Explain.
Well, I mean,
because I've shot a 308. I don't have one anymore. But,
I have one.
But I've killed some crap with it.
Yeah. I mean, so I have more than one. But the fact is so therefore I can talk about it, right? Because I own some. So, and my dad has one. My brother's got one. We've all shot them. They're not good at anything. They got the ballistics of a sailboat. I mean, they're slow. They recoil a lot more than a 6.5 Creedmoor, right? There is nothing a 308 does that a 6.5 Creedmoor won't do better, in my opinion.
Even with the heavier bullet, because like you're shooting like 175 grain a lot of times.
I mean, I guess shooting a deer dead in the shoulder at 100 yards, it's going to do that a little better.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to dish on anybody's 308, but you should not go spend money today to buy one.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
That's the same thing like the Honda 300. I sold mine that I had years ago. Finally, I got tired of replacing parts on it. It wasn't worth what all needed to be done to it. If you have a 308 or 30-06 or whatever caliber it is, and it's doing good, it groups good, and you're comfortable with it, keep freaking shooting that son of a gun. But if you were to go buy a new one, like a dude the other day, he went and he bought a new rifle, and I think it was a Bergara, and he bought one of the nicer, like B14s or whatever. It was like $1,000, something like that. And he got it in a 30-06. And I'm like, why would you get a new modern rifle like that it doesn't add up to such an old caliber? There's just so many better calibers
right
now.
And like I said, there's nothing wrong with a 30-06. There's nothing wrong with a 308 in and of itself, other than everything else is better.
Yeah.
I mean, but I certainly wouldn't spend good hard-earned money to go buy one.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other better options today.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I've shot 308 only matches, right? Because they try to say, well, it's just an arms race. It's a gun race. And so therefore, let's caliber restrict this. And this is a side note, and I'll make it really quick. I'll give you one guess on who won. It's the same people that won every time before. You just changed the gun. It didn't matter. Even when everybody shot the exact same thing. We were shooting, I think I shot one time where they restricted our ammunition. So you had to shoot factory ammo. So you couldn't shoot hand loads. So it was 308s, factory ammo only. And that was a long time ago, but it was something in that realm. Same guys won. Or, top 10.
Talking about that win all the other that shoot 6 millimeters.
Yeah, the same guys that are top 10. I mean, that was the cool thing about when we were all really at it and we were serious. I mean, we were going all over the United States. And you knew when you showed up who was going to finish in the top 10. Yeah. You didn't know who was going to win, right? Because the top 10 was a crapshoot. I mean, it could go any way. Those same guys, you give them 308s, they were still the best.
Yeah.
So just kind of how it went. But I wouldn't buy one today. And I certainly wouldn't build one, spend that kind of money.
Yeah. O'Brien Allen, that son of a gun, and Ravel 18 Precision.
Yes.
They do some good stuff. So did you ever shoot on their team, or what's the core?
All right. So here's the history of that. And I was actually at a little train up deal where they were bringing some new shooters to a gun range this weekend. That's the first time I've been to something like that in a long time. And I'm 41, but when I walked in and I looked around, it was like this surreal moment of nobody here has done this for longer than me. And I actually made that comment, like we were kind of going around the room introducing, and of course, we're the ones that got Brian into shooting. Oh. He shot our guns and got bit with it, and then he got, and Brian, everything Brian does, he goes 100. Oh, yeah. He's that kind of guy.
Catfishing on Mississippi River, building a house, or building rifles.
Yeah, I mean, whatever he's going to do, shooting competition, he's all in. He doesn't halfway do anything. And so, he was kind of really coming into it as I was leaving out. But we certainly were tied at the hip there for a long time because I'd been in the game for a while, me and my dad and my brother, so we knew all the people. And so we were introducing him, and of course his personality is such that, I mean, he's making friends quickly and really got himself in the community well. But so he's building top-notch rifles. There's a lot of great rifle builders, but Brian's certainly one. And the cool thing about Brian's, he's here.
Mm-hmm. Right up the road from us.
He's right in the road from us. And, I mean, as a buddy of mine told me a long time ago, is the first guy I ever shot with, he was a scout sniper in the Marine Corps. He said there's two ways to build a rifle. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. It's either square or it's not. And so there's no magic. There's no pixie dust. People can pretend that, so-and-so's got this little deal. No, I mean, either you do it right or it's not right. And Brian does it right. He's using the best materials. He's got really good stuff. He's got good procedures. His stuff's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I don't have one of his rifles. Every time I go over there, I always try to go and shoot some of those stuff. I'll go upstairs and shoot that window.
Right.
And I remember it was a 6 millimeter something a few years ago. I don't remember, maybe it was a 22 that I wanted threaded. And I don't remember what, it may have been a 22, but we went and, typically you need to get the barrel to put it in the lay or whatever to thread it. You need to go and you need to get the barrel off the action.
Right.
So you can fit it in there good. And I didn't know that. I just told him, he's like, yeah, he said, just bring it over here to me. And, just bring it over here to me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I found that out after, but I go over there and it was awesome. We worked on that gun and did it forever. And just a thread, like $100 22. But he did it for me. It was awesome. But he's like, you want to go shoot a gun? I was like, absolutely. So we went upstairs and shot one of them. And it was stupid. He's like, was it 800 yards or something that he shoots upstairs? Or
I forget how far it is.
It was a long way, farther than I've shot at that time. And I go and he's like, all right. He knew what to do. He just dialed to it and put it down. He's like, just slowly pull back on the trigger straight. And I did. I'm talking about within, I don't remember how far, but you could have spit and it would have touched the bullet in the bullseye, whatever distance.
Oh yeah.
He built some mad rifles.
He does. He actually built my 7 PRC. And Kimber 6.5 Creedmoor. So I've had him do a lot of barrels for me. That's the cool thing. People may or may not know, but kind of once you have a custom rifle or probably even a Bergara, you can get, if you don't like the caliber that you have, as long as it's the same head case and it's either a short action or a long action, I mean, you can get somebody like Brian to spin you up a barrel and put it on there. I I mean, so you're not married to that forever. You don't have to go buy a new gun necessarily. You know, it might be cheaper because Bergera's, you know, they're selling some stuff that's for what you're getting is a great value.
Yeah.
So, pretty impressive, actually. I look at that stuff all the time, and I've shot a few of them for people, and I'm like, these things are, I mean, they're not full-on customs by any stretch, but they're really good. Mm-hmm. Really, really
like
good.
You're talking about earlier rifles, they getting good for less money is, you're more at that now than you've ever been.
Absolutely. I mean, today you're talking about, you know, you said $1,000, $1,100,
Yeah.
$1,400,
Yeah.
which is not a small number.
Mm-mm.
But to do better than that, you spend $5,000
Just on the rifle.
you know? And so it's a major step. And it's the same way with scopes. You know, you can buy some really nice glass for in the high hundreds, or you can spend multiple thousands to get this much better.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, it's very possible today to have these really nice rifles with really nice scopes and not spend everything you can make, you know?
Yeah. So you got me sold on the caliber, which I kind of knew coming in after previous conversations, doing the homework. It's self-explanatory that that 7PRC, if you want kind of a do-it-all, something like that is going to be it. But I know I'll get a 7PRC now. All right, so what about glass?
Man, I'm a kind of a glass snob.
And that's why I asked. You're kind of a snob on it all, and
I am.
That's why I'm looking
I'm
forward
a little
to your
embarrassed
opinion.
to say that to the public, but you know, I was very fortunate to shoot at the level I did, and so I got exposed to really good stuff. And if you don't know what really good stuff is, it's okay. But once you've shot really, really good stuff, you don't want to go back. And so, but having said that, do y'all sell Swarovski?
Yeah.
At Spotted Dog? So I think they have a new one. It's either X or a Z5.
Yep, I think it's the X5 or something. Brian just he
just posted about it. All right, so Saturday at that little train up deal, somebody, it may have been Brian's gun. I don't know. There was a lot of guns. I was just helping people. But while I was helping this lady shoot, and she did great, by the way, probably about mama's age, lower 60s, upper 50s. But anyways, she did great. But one of the things I like to do when people are shooting, because you can't just stand there. Either you got to be on a spot and scope or looking through another scope to know, because at distance, you need a bit to help them get on the target when they miss, and with your naked eye, you can't do that.
Right.
And so I just happened to get on this glass, and I looked through it, and I was like, wow, this is really nice. I mean, really nice glass. And Patrick's like, you know what that is? And Patrick's my brother. I was like, I wasn't paying attention. I just got on the gun, you know? And he was like, that's that new X5 or whatever. He was like, it's like a $1,200 scope, $1,400.
It's cheap.
Yeah,
Or it's cheap
relative to 3,000 or 4,000, which is what a lot of this really high end glass costs.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I really was. And I'm not out here selling Swarovski. I'm a big Vortex fan. I mean, in full disclosure, Vortex has got some great scopes that are economical. But I was blown away at the glass quality for that price point.
So is it clarity is what you're looking at in it?
Yeah.
Or what do you?
I mean, it was just really crisp. It had a side parallax on it, which I'm big on a side parallax, so that you can focus at that distance and you can focus at other distances as well, right? So it gives you the ability to somewhat read the wind between you and the target when you can unfocus that scope and see what's happening between here and there.
Yeah.
And so that scope was just really clear. It had a really crisp picture, and it was simple. You know, it wasn't overly complicated. I looked through some other scopes that cost a lot more than that, and they weren't that clear.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you got to do, right? You can't just look through one and say, oh, this is good. You can't hold them up in the store and look through them like this and know anything. I don't want people to do that. I laugh. But it's okay. I guess you got to look through them. It's kind of like kicking the tire on a car. I mean, I don't know if you're expecting it to fall off or what. But my point is that I went from that to a $3,000 scope that I've owned one of them before. It's a known quantity, good scope. I walked away knowing that was better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be hard pressed not to look hard at that. You know, to me, I've always said, I mean, granted, when you buy these really high end rifles, you're going to spend more money on a rifle than a scope because the scopes just don't cost that much. But whenever you're being budget minded, I've always recommended spend more money on the scope than you do the rifle because you're going to get more value out of that. You're going to spend more, you know, you're going to shoot one time. You're going to look at deer or coyotes or whatever, trying to figure out, man, is that the buck I've been seeing on camera right at legal shooting time, not after dark. We don't do that. Mm-mm. No, never. So I've always thought spending more money on glass was what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in that.
So tell me if this is a myth or not. 30 millimeter tube versus a 1-inch tube lets more light in later in the afternoon.
Yes.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that's not better about a 30 millimeter tube than a 1-inch. And a 34 is better than that.
Okay. So a 34, looking in it, do you tell a difference? If it's just middle of the day, we walk outside right now, and we go and you sit down behind a rifle and you look between, just say that Swarovski, you look at essentially, for example purposes, it's the same piece of glass. It's just one's a 30, one's a 34 millimeter tube. What would be the benefit for you to go with the 34 over a 30?
Well, I've never looked and done that from an optical standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't have any experience there, so I'd really be talking out of school. But what you do get with a 30, the bigger the tube, the more physical size you have for the erectors to move up and down. So you get more turns, right?
Yeah.
You get more elevation adjustment than you would on something smaller.
Okay.
You certainly get more light. You know, you got bigger glass in there, so you're able to. It's just like a 56 millimeter objective is going to get more than a 50.
Yeah,
and you just got a lot more of that 30 or 34 over a 1-inch.
Yeah,
you know? And the truth is, it seems like all the really nice stuff now is at least 30.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that there's probably some great 1-inch stuff. I just haven't been exposed to it in a long time. But there's a lot of really good stuff that's 30 millimeter.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I have no extensive, training or time looking at 30, 34 in daylight.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell you this too. I mean, it's like anything else. You want to get some people fired up, start talking about what's better.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody's eyes are different. And so what you see as good or great, it may not be what I see. There's just, everybody's kind of got their opinions. I mean, my advice is if you're going to make a purchase like a scope where you're spending really hard earned money, and I mean, don't forget, these things last forever. Mm-hmm. They don't go bad. So, I mean, you're not buying it for this year, you're buying it for the next 20. Find somebody who's got one and go spend some time behind it before you spend that kind of money, go to the Spotted Dog and ask somebody at the gun counter, hey, do you know anybody that's got this and are they friendly? And then call them and say, hey, can I, I'm not saying everybody's going to say yes, but
most probably would.
Yeah. And go look for yourself, because it's hard to go drop that kind of money and then be dissatisfied. I don't think you'll be dissatisfied with any of that higher end type stuff. Because it's pretty special, but that'd be my recommendation. Is find somebody who's got it.
Yeah.
Go look.
So what about magnification?
Oh man, I like a lot of magnification.
Yeah. Where can it get where it's too much?
Well, you get over 30 is a lot.
Yeah.
I've got some 6 to 36s. That's a lot. The 36s are a lot. Of course, the higher the magnification you run, the less light you're going to gather. So you're going to run lower magnifications the closer you get to dark. But man, I'm a big fan of having the availability of at least having 20.
Really?
Yeah. I like a lot of zoom.
Yeah.
I've got some 3.5 to 15 night forces on some AR-10s. They fit a purpose. And that, they're really good at what they do, but I'm not going to take them and try to be super precise. That's personal. One of the guy that taught me the most, Wade Studeville Precision. Shout out to him. Great guy, great rifle builder. Probably, I mean, my dad calls him E.F. Hutton. He doesn't say a whole lot, but when he talks, everybody listens.
Yeah.
Brilliant mind. And so I'm the guy that I will shoot a competition and never take my gun off 20 power and 25 if I can get away with it. I have a unique ability to index a rifle, and when I point it or when I move it, when I put my head on the scope, I'm there. Because you got a narrow field of vision when you're at 25 power. That's just one of the things that came natural to me. It's easy. So I can do that. But also, I cannot shoot well if I'm not zoomed in because I don't feel like I'm aiming really tight. And I brought up Wade's name. I've seen him shoot competitions where we're shooting out to 1,200 yards. That dude will still be on 8 power. He's one of the greatest that's ever picked up a rifle. And I walk by and I look, I'm like, dude's he's on 8 power. And so, he and I are good buddies. And I've talked to him about it, and like, it's just, he's good. That's where he functions.
Yeah.
And he's great at it. But for me, I want a lot of power.
Being tight.
Yeah. I mean, as a buddy of mine says, you want to see a guy's whiskers. You don't want to shoot your cousin. I mean, that was the joke he said for a long time, and I'll never forget it. But, I like a lot of power. But I said the other side of that too. Like, you don't have to have it. Yeah. That's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
My brother doesn't shoot it with as much power as I do. So, I mean, it's just all over the board. But I like a lot of power. I like a lot of zoom. I like side parallax, right? So if you're not zooming in a lot, you don't have to use the parallax knob a lot because it gives you more. You can be wrong.
Yeah, that depth of field is
better.
Yeah, it's wider.
It's wider. Yeah, be a better way to put that than when it's lower. So
or longer, maybe longer. But regardless, we know what they're talking about. You got more room for it.
And for people that have never used the parallax knob, we're just talking Chinese.
Yeah,
and a lot of people haven't.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't even know what a parallax knob is.
Yeah,
I had a guy 2 weeks ago send me a picture on a scope. He said, "What is this?" And I said, I did not make fun of him like I wanted to, but I said, "That's a parallax knob. Put your eyes on the scope, twist it. It gets better, it gets worse. Leave it where it gets better."
Yeah, yeah. So it's the knob. I mean, I think most people probably know, but it's the knob on the side. Like a lot of guns, they have turrets, and so you have your elevation on top, your windage on the right, and then this other knob, the little trifecta over here, so to speak, it's going to say like 0, and it's going to jump to like 100, 200, 300, 400, and it's going to keep on going to infinity. And so if you're at 100 yards, you want to go and you want to have it pretty close.
That's right.
I have a Vortex. It's a PST Gen 2.
Yeah,
and
let's go.
525 to 50. I thought it was too tight, and I'll tell you why here in a minute why I don't think it is now. It's pretty funny for me and Vaughn last weekend. But it's pretty close up till once you start getting further out. So like at 600 yards, it's not. You can't put it on 600 yards and it's going to be spot on. You got to adjust. At least it may be different for everyone's eyes.
It is.
But for mine, I've got to adjust it just a touch. But for the most part, if you have a deer at 200 yards and you're really trying to like zoom in and see his whiskers, so to speak, you want to go and adjust that parallax. Whereas, used to is on the end of your of your scope.
And that was very cumbersome.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
terrible idea.
Yeah. But I mean, it's better than not having one, I guess. But having that side parallax is definitely, that's definitely it.
And so just a side note, clearly a left-handed person designed that. Think about it. If you're shooting, you're pulling the trigger with your left hand, you're holding your bag with your right hand, the parallax knob's here. So you're going, it's very natural to adjust and then move your hand back here. What's a right-handed guy doing?
Doing like this.
They're all out of whack.
Yeah.
They're all out of whack. So, and I shoot left-handed. So I think it's a pretty cool deal. But that lady that I was helping the other day, she's a right-handed lady. And like we had to really work hard because everybody that their daddy taught them to shoot back in the day, where do they put their hands? On the stock. Yeah. They put it on the stock.
Like you're shooting a shotgun.
That's right. They just like you're shooting a shotgun. And I'm like, ma'am, that hand goes on the bag. And so I take her hand, put it back on the bag. She put it back up there, And so I didn't even attempt to teach her how to use the parallax knob because we were just barely figuring out how to work the bag. And so then I would turn the parallax knob and I'd say better or worse, better or worse. And she would just tell me better, 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 stop, go back, you know? And so I would adjust it for her as we went out. I said all that to say, you're right. It really is eye dependent because up close, to your point, it's pretty close. But as you get out, it really gets out of whack, you know? And it also depends on what the sun's doing. So.
Yeah. Well, when I took Vaughn out, like I said, I've been thinking that 5 to 25. You still good on time?
Yeah.
Okay. That 5 to 25 to 50 is, like I said, it's a Vortex PSD Gen 2. Absolutely love the scope. Almost looks like a Christmas tree. And it's first focal plane, mil-rad. When I bought it, I was like, I'm about to be a sniper. Not really, but I mean, it's what you feel like when you get behind it. You're used to shooting a cheap Walmart, something comes on a pellet gun. Yeah, Weaver. And look, Weaver, they make some all right stuff now, but I mean, it's like you pull it off your BB gun and then you put it on your rifle. That's kind of what it feels like. And then you jump to this, you're like, oh my gosh, what kind of Afghanistan deal am I at, you know?
Right.
But I love the scope. I don't love the first focal plane, not for hunting.
I agree.
I'm out on that. Your competition, do you shoot first focal plane?
You have to shoot first focal plane.
Okay. Yep. And but a deer, I've always thought it was too much. The 5, like minimum 5 power. I'm like, man, it's just too much. Probably a lot of it's going to be because the reticle is so small as well. And, it looks like a little bitty.
Yeah, you can't see it, especially in the dark. It's
very tough. And we don't shoot it dark. Like we don't shoot close to the dark, as deer hunters. But this doe came in. We were packing up, getting ready to leave. It was Vaughn's first hunt. And I was like, man, I'm on like cloud 9. I'm so excited that he just turned 3. I'm so excited he's out there with me and that he wanted to go on a buck deer hunt. And it's cute. You ask him what a buck deer says. He says, "Meh." It's funny. But I was like, "You're ready." He said he was ready to go. And this was right there before that cold front moved in last week or week and a half ago. And anyhow, he was ready to go. And so I was like, we had like 20 or 30 minutes of shooting light left. And I was like, well, if you're ready, we'll go. You're not going to sit here and cry. And if you're ready, we don't have to stay. So I started put my cameras down. I had all this, pretty much everything you see here, I had in the dang box stand with us, And
you had 30 minutes packing.
45. Yeah. He had frostbite by the time we got ready to leave just about. But I start packing and putting stuff down, and I look, and there's a pretty dang good buck. He was young. I mean, probably 120-something inch deer, 15 yards walking this trail right outside, and it's a buddy of mine is blind, just walking through right there, and Vaughn got to see him. And so I'm packing up, and I see some movement, and I look, and I thought it was just that buck again. He didn't came back. It's old Slickhead. She's sitting there looking, and just eyeballing us at 15 yards, and I'm like, you're going down.
Yeah,
like
she's going to snort. She's going to ruin your day anyway.
Yeah, she didn't blow at me, but if you do, I'll sling an air at 200 yards at you. Like, I don't care.
Right.
You're going to get shot at. And I'm telling you, 15 yards, and it was still, too, right there, 20 minutes till dark, and I cracked that window open. I hung that 6.5 PRC with that Omega out the window, and I said, all right, Vaughn, you see that doe deer? He said, yes. I said, and I had to remind, I was like, yes, sir. He's like, yes, sir. I was like, okay. Watch her. I said, Daddy's about to shoot her. And normally, like, I say normally, I don't say anything about shooting. Like, I don't know really how to introduce dead and all that stuff just yet. So I was like, he's just turned 3, so I'm not really pushing it too hard. So I haven't talked about shot placement clearly. But I was like, the only thing I can see is this deer's head. And that's it. At 15 yards, and it's 100 yards zero. And but zoomed out all the way at 5 power. I put that crosshair right between her eyes, and she just didn't move. And it was awesome.
Took face shooting to another level.
Let me tell you something. Yeah, you can figure out pretty quick what she looked like. I had to flip her head over when we got out of the blind to walk over there. Vaughn was running. I was like, "Hold up, buddy!" I said, "Let me help you." And I got there right before he did, so I laid her head on the other side, and it was awesome. But just the experience with him. But yeah, the 5 I thought was too tight, but I don't think it was. I think it's just the reticle having that first focal plane.
Yeah, you'd be more satisfied with a second because five's plenty low, in my opinion.
Yeah. So explain someone that they don't know the difference between first focal plane and second focal plane.
So, oh gosh, I'm sitting here stuttering like I don't know, but I do. So the difference is that in a second focal plane, the reticle stays the same size all the time. And by that, I mean, it's fixed in the scope. It's the same size. So when you're shooting competition or military police type stuff, everything has to do with a reticle. So most things are done in mil-radian. You got minute of angle, mil-radian, whole nother discussion for another day. But anyhow, the second focal plane scopes, the reticles are calibrated for maximum zoom on every scope I've ever been around. There may be some exceptions to that. I don't know. I don't want anybody fact checking me. But in general terms, they're designed to be run at full power. And so what I mean by that is 1 mil-radian. If you have a mil dot scope, 1 mil is actually a mil at 25 power. At 12.5 power, it's 2 mils because it got twice as far away and the reticle stayed the same. And that should make sense. Mm-hmm. On a first focal plane, the reticle stays the same. It moves with the scope. It moves in and out. So you see it go away from you. So that same mil, if you need to hold a mil, right? So if my 300-yard zero is 1 mil, I can hold 1 mil in the scope on 5 power or on 25 power. You can't do that in a second focal plane. So and what you're saying and what everybody needs to understand is on 5 power, that reticle gets super small and it gets super hard to see. And of course, at 15 or 25 yards, I mean, you're just putting it on hair and letting it bump, you know. But if it was further than that and you were trying to shoot 100 yards and, you know, right there at legal shooting hours, it's going to be hard to see that reticle. So for hunting, and it's hard to argue with a second focal plane scope.
Yeah.
For competition or duty use, probably be the best way to put that. You know, a first focal plane is where you want to be because, you know, the bad guys don't give you a chance to range them, dial, shoot. You're going to have to be able to just shoot.
Yeah.
That's where that 3.5 to 15 on the AR-10 comes in. You know, I don't need them. I mean, if I'm shooting those guys, I'm pretty sure they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just so between like your crosshair that everybody has, just the standard crosshair, you have that, and then to the first like hash mark, it's just going to stay the same no matter what. Yep. So if it's, you know, just say 3.5 inches or whatever, and if you're doing mils, just say it is 1 mil. It don't matter. It's going to stay 1 mil or 3 mils, whatever.
That's right.
Between no matter what. No matter if
it's on 5 power or 25 power, it's still, and you were right, a mil for all practical purposes is 3.5 inches-ish per 100 yards.
Yeah.
So that's 35 inches at 1,000.
That's that OCS math, baby.
That's that OCS math. I can do it. Yep.
And then, so what about reticles? What are your, do you like just plain, like hunting? I'm talking about hunting right now. So just hunting rifles. Or do you take your competition?
I do. I hunt with, you know, everything I have is real similar.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing something with some sort of mil-radian in it. And, you know, they're all different, right? I mean, Swarovski's got their version. Schmidt&Bender has theirs. Nobody has a standard. I guess they may have it, but nobody's buying the standard mil dot reticle anymore.
Right.
There's some variation of that. So that's what I'm going to shoot because my head thinks in mils. And, you know, when you're trying to get it done in the field, it's never perfect. And you want to be able to hold because winds are changing by the second, kind of, sort of. And you kind of want to have, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to aim in front of the shoulder. You want to know exactly where you're holding into the wind or high or whatever based on as things change. So
you're using the reticle more when you're hunting, again, just hunting. Are you using the reticle more for your hold on windage or elevation than you are the actual adjusting the turrets?
So I'm big on, I like to dial the elevation if I have time. I would prefer that just because it keeps your focus in the center of the scope. And then more often than not, I'll hold the wind.
Okay.
And that's just because that wind's so variable based on what you're seeing at the time. It's pretty standard to hold the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we got the time, I'd love to dial it. So you're just holding dead nuts 0. And it's just like shooting at 100 yards now.
Yeah.
But in the real world, I mean, deer are moving, coyotes are moving, whatever, hogs. And so it's just like, you got to send it, you know, and sometimes you just got to send it with no elevation on it. You got to hold the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's pretty high level stuff.
And that comes with shooting your gun, like you're talking about.
A lot. And understanding that, like, it blow your mind. Like, if I dial everything for you at 1,000 yards and we're in a 10-mile-an-hour wind and I dial it in for you and you shoot it and you're going to hit it, right? And then I take it all off and I tell you how to hold it, it's going to wig you out because you're holding so high. And if it's a left or right crosswind, so far to the left of the target, you're like, this is impossible.
Yeah.
It seems very possible when you're just aiming at the spot. Right. You don't know that you're really aiming over here. The scope did it for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to do that one day because it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I typically, that's what I want to adjust.
Yeah. I prefer it too.
Yeah. Go to Clark's ground out in Oak Ridge. We'll go out there and shoot some does. And I'm going out there this weekend. And my longest shots on, which to you, you'll do that in your sleep, but it's like, I got the video on my phone, but it's like 470 something with that 6.5 PRC.
Yeah. Good shot.
But I'm not that great of a shot, but it's easy when you understand your gear just a little bit. And I went and I ranged her and I was laying prone. Of course, again, I was laying prone and I even went in my little bag that I had it on the back of my e-bike. And I put my little sandbag, so I had my sticks on the front, my bipod on the front of the gun, put my little sandbag up under it, and I'm laying in the lane. It's like 470-something yards, and I just went, and zero wind, or at least not enough for me to notice anything. And I ranged it, and I looked on the end of the objective of my scope. I just went and just wrote it down on a piece of paper, like 100-0,
right,
200-2.4, and then so forth all the way down to 1,000. That way I can just range, look like, okay, that's 800 yards. I need to be at 11.7. So I'll just round it as close as I can to it, And so I put it on her and folded her up, and it was awesome. And I shot a hog that afternoon at like 300 something yards, and it was awesome. But yeah, you start going and trying to just hold. I haven't done that. Like, I've never shot at anything. I've shot targets and stuff just trying, and I don't like it. But using the actual reticle, I didn't.
It's different.
Yeah.
It is a lot different, and it works just the same.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a mind trick.
Trip you out, like we say, wig you out just a little bit.
Wig you out just a little bit. You're like, man, this is not normal.
Yeah,
it goes against everything inside of you.
I was looking at one of the Leopolds the other day at Spotted Dog. If I was to get that 7 PRC or whatever rifle, what scope would I want to get? Definitely second focal plane. I was looking at the time before I shot that doe at 15 yards between the eyes, but so I was looking for a little bit lower magnification, something like a 4-18 or like 3-15, kind of like what you're talking about on AR-10s. I was looking at something like that, and but Leupold, they have, I'm going to get it wrong, maybe like their VX6 or VX5 or something, V5s or something like that, and I really liked it. It was just, they have multiple versions, but this was just a plain old school, like that Weaver scope we're talking about. Nothing. Yeah, it was just a crosshair. That was it. Clean, simple, and it had a little LED, just a little dot on the inside that it was automatic. So it wasn't solar or anything like that. It cut on like shake weight kind of thing.
Right.
And it was so clean. I'm like, dude, that's what I'd want to go for sure. But then after talking about this, I'm like, you have something. If you were in a situation and you're trying to shoot that elk way out across there, you need to know I want to know my gear, whatever I take before I go on an elk hunt, in case I do need to shoot one across a canyon at 600-700 yards. I want to be able to do that, and I would want to be able to do that. So I need to know my gear and those holds. I'd want to be comfortable with that. But that's also another thing too. If you got your holds, it's kind of hard to do that math on the fly with a second focal plane.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. I mean, you could, but I mean, you better be sharp, and I would highly recommend against it. Especially in a situation where, you want to practice it, that's okay. But in the real world, on an elk or a whitetail or, something where it counts, I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
Not to anybody.
Yeah. The sight that I shoot on my bow, it's a spot hog boonie sight. And so it's adjustable, your yardage. And so it goes from essentially 20 down to 120. And it has, 21, 22, 23, like 1 yard increments all the way down. It's pretty awesome. And, but you can fix it at 20. So mine's 2-pin. It's one single post coming up, but it's got 2 fiber optics on it. And so it's set to essentially 20 and 40. It's like 38 is actually what it is, but essentially 20 and 40. And so you can go and shoot. And I did it this year. I shot a doe. It was like 37, 38 yards. And I used my second pin on it just to do it. Cause I've all the years I've bow hunted, I've never used anything other than my first pin. Like I've never been in that situation. Point is, most of the time, same thing as like dialing your scope, whether it's archery or rifle. Most of the time, I feel like I have time to make that adjustment. You range, that's 450 yards or 200 yards or whatever. Look over, there's 200, 2.3 or whatever it is. You go look at your scope, 2.3, you get back down, and within just a few seconds, you're ready to shoot.
Yep.
It hasn't messed me up with a bow yet, and it hasn't messed me up on a rifle. So I think I'm going to keep trying to dial. So I may go back with that clean scope. I need to check out that Swarovski and see if they make it in a clean reticle.
They might. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I was just impressed with the glass.
Yeah.
Talking about wind, this is just a free pro tip for whoever might think about shooting long range. But one of the things I like to, you were talking about having your data on your scope. Brilliant idea. Find somewhere on your gun, scope, whatever, you can write all that down. The other thing to do is memorize a 10-mile-an-hour true crosswind. Just memorize those numbers. And if you can memorize the numbers that you've got written down, the up and the wind at 10, you can solve a lot of problems in the field. And because, everything's going to be some version off that 10. You can do the quick math. Well, it's only 5. It's 15, so it's half again that, and all that stuff's linear. And, so that's just one of the things. If somebody's thinking about getting into shooting or they're going to go on this really nice hunting trip, practice shooting and spend some time memorizing that stuff. And, oh, by the way, free, also really free. If you're going to hunt elk, it's not the same as being in Louisiana. We're at sea level. You're going to be at 10,000 feet. The density altitude's different. You need to get some sort of ballistic app that will calculate for density altitude, because I'm not talking down to anybody, and this is way off base from what we were talking about, but it just kind of hit me because we're talking about shooting elk. We've brought that up a bunch of times. A 600-yard zero in Louisiana in January, like some mornings we're waking up negative 2,000 density altitude. So that is really thick air. Airplanes do great in that. Bullets do not. So I have shot in Colorado in the wintertime at 12,000 feet density altitude. So the bullet's a lot flatter, bucks the wind better, all that. A 600-yard kill in Louisiana is a clean miss in Colorado with the same numbers.
Wow.
You have to adjust for density altitude.
That big of a difference.
It is mission critical. Such a big deal. And it's not a big deal at 100 yards. It makes no difference. But at 600, probably even 500, but 600 and out, if you're trying to shoot very far, it's a big, big deal. Very big deal.
You're going to miss your animal.
Yes. So I know I didn't come here to give pro tips, but I kind of felt guilty the more I thought about it. The more I was like, we're sitting here talking about shooting elk, and I ain't even mentioned density altitude. And no offense, because most people don't know that.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't, because you don't know what you don't know. But mission critical, density altitude. And so please don't go to Colorado, Wyoming, and think that, oh man, I could hit that 12-inch gong at 600 yards in Louisiana. You will miss it every time. And your animal's going to get away, and you just wasted a lot of money.
As expensive as things are, especially elk hunts these days.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
No. So very, very important detail.
So if you're going out, you're going to spot a dog right now. You leave here, you're going to pick you up a rifle and a scope and stuff like that to hunt deer and elk. So you're really trying to shoot from 100 yards at a deer up to just say 500 or 600 for an elk. What rifle, caliber, and scope and ammo are you going for?
I think, and I don't own one, but I've shot several, and I've talked to a lot of people. I think I'm going with some version of a Bergera. If y'all sold Seekins, do y'all sell Seekins? You know?
Is that the scopes?
No, they're a rifle company. They make ARs and bolt guns. They make some. You might need to look into that.
I'll check into that.
Glenn Seekins, great guy, great company in Idaho. But anyway, similar to Bergera in that they're making some really affordable, very good rifles. Yeah. But today, if I'm going to the Spotted Dog, I'm buying a 7 PRC Bergera, and as I like to say, as much scope as you can afford.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. And maybe it's the Vortex. Look, Vortex makes some great stuff. I mean, very economical. You know, the PST whatever is a great scope. They've got the higher end stuff. You want to spend a bunch of money. You got the Swarovski over here. For that price point, that $1,000 to $1,200-$1,300, which I know is a lot of money, but for what you're getting, it's phenomenal. I mean, a really good set of rings. So you want to tie the rifle and the scope together with really good rings. You don't want to buy cheap rings because you might crush your tube on your, on your scope, which would be devastating. Yeah. Probably the only people that are going to fix that's Vortex.
Which they do have an incredible warranty.
So I know a guy, fact, I was there, not like hearsay. I know a guy, and I was there, that ran over one on accident. It was not on purpose, with a lawnmower.
A scope?
A scope.
Was it attached to the rifle?
Yes.
How'd that happen? You don't have to say any names.
Yeah, I'm not naming names. It wasn't here. It was in Texas at a ranch out there. But anyways, absolutely obliterated it. Sent it back to Vortex. Sent him another one. No questions asked.
Wow.
Their warranty's incredible. But at any rate, find the scope that you really like, and put it on one of those. And I think that's that's kind of a buy once, cry once deal. I mean, because you're talking about even relatively affordable, you're still spending $2,500 plus tax before you walk out the door. So you're at $2,750. So a lot of money.
Then you got to buy a bipod.
$150.
Yep. And you're going to buy at least at minimum 3 boxes of those LDXs that are what, 50, I don't know, $50,
50,
60 bucks.
Yeah. I mean, they're all, not cheap, but also not like buying Weatherby ammo.
Right.
And you need to buy that ammunition. I mean, you need to shoot the gun. I mean, they're just paperweights if you're not shooting them.
Yeah.
You're just not going to be good at anything if you're not practicing. And look, here's the free thing. Dry fire them. But Lord help, make sure there's not any bullets in it. Look at me. No bullets in the gun. It's dry fire for a reason. But you don't have to have snap caps. I mean, don't dry fire 22s.
Yeah.
But big center fires, you can dry fire them till you're blue in the face. Know where that trigger is going to break every time. You don't want it to be a surprise. I can remember hearing people say, "Oh, you want it to surprise you?" No, you don't. You do not want that gun to surprise you. You want to know when that trigger is going to break. The only way you can know that's by shooting it a lot. And it costs a lot to shoot it a lot. So dry fire a lot. That costs zero. It costs your time. Well, most people are scrolling on Facebook anyway. So spend some of your scroll time dry firing.
Yeah.
You get better. One of the best guys I ever shot with, I mean, he was a dry fire machine. But please triple, quadruple check that you actually have the gun empty.
Yeah. That would not be good.
Not good. So,
unless you have one of those Silencer Co. Omegas or sights on it, and then your wife won't even know. So
yeah, but if it goes through 7 walls in the house, it's a problem.
Yeah, maybe it'll hit your neighbor's dog that gets in your trash all the time. Or
yeah, I wouldn't even recommend that.
Nah, I'm joking. On suppressors, this will be the last thing. We'll wrap it up. Have you seen the wait times on them things now?
Well, yeah, I heard they were nothing, but I bought 2 sights the other day, like 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't gotten mine, so I'm getting a little frustrated.
Uh-oh.
Like I was thinking I was going to get the 4-day deal.
Or like the 8-hour deal.
Or the 8-hour deal. So I'm gonna call you boys down there tomorrow and be like, "Hey, fellas, where's my stuff?" Dang. I bought two in a day. I saw Slade later on somewhere, and I was like, "Hey, I just spent a bunch of money at your store." He was like, "I appreciate that." I was like, "I was buying some suppressors." So one of the guys I work with, he's got one. Jake got one. Everybody's raving about them, and I mean, I've got more suppressors than I got rifles, but I mean, you might as well just have 2 more.
Yeah.
You know, they're great.
So are you pushing the size over the Omegas? Because I know you shot the Omegas like that was your go-to forever.
Yeah, I had one of the original research and development Omegas back in the day.
So that was prior to the Silencer Co. Omega? Or
No, it was the Silencer Co.
it was
Omega.
Silencer. It was just early on, like...
Yeah, okay. Like I was sponsored by them.
Yeah.
So they actually... The way we did it, or the way they did it legally, was I was an employee. So I got every 2-week check. It wasn't a big one, but I did get a check. And so because I was an employee, they could send them to me in the mail. So I think I had 18 suppressors from them that I shot.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and it was cool. And so I wound up getting them all after they fired me. Because I had them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do with a used suppressor?
Right.
And so I brought them all to the Spotted Dog. And we did 18 transfers, if I remember right. So I had to pay 18 times 200, $3,600 in tax stamps just to get it done. But hey, I had a bunch of free suppressors.
Are they getting rid of the tax stamp anytime soon, you think? There's so much talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I feel like Daddy Trump's supposed to make a swath, and Don Jr.'s he's in that camp.
He's a big
time. I feel like there's a lot of things they didn't get done last time that they're probably going to find a way to get done. And the truth is, these suppressors have become so mainstream. And like you said, I mean, they're cranking them out almost like they're 4473s at this point. They're just, you know, mine, maybe they're looking into me or something. I don't know. But everybody I know's been just getting them just like that.
They're still holding that grudge from when they fired you.
Yeah. So that's what happens when you quit shooting. They quit paying you.
Yeah. Well, I said that was going to be our last thing. You could say that you have no intel and nothing. You don't know anything about it. What's up with Trump wanting to take over like Greenland and all that? Are you into the of all the news and stuff, or even like no more income tax?
Yeah.
Are you looking at that at all?
I mean, I think Trump just postures a lot. I mean, like I think he just throws stuff out to get some reaction. You know. I mean, do I think that dude would buy Canada and Greenland? Yes, 100%. That's a Trump flex if there's ever been one. Now, how do you do that? How do you execute buying a country? I couldn't even begin to imagine how that works. But, you know, and no income tax sounds good, but here's the deal. It's going to be in the form of a sales tax. Hard to beat a sales tax.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. I mean, that depends on how they structure that. I mean, you know, because then you can say, well, I mean, those who spend a lot of money pay a lot of taxes, and those who choose to invest and save don't pay taxes, you know. But man, that tax code's so complicated.
Yeah. There's a reason you and I are not CPAs.
That's right. And everybody wants to talk about abolishing the IRS. And I mean, in theory, I'd be for that. But I don't know what a sales tax looks like either. Because if you take somebody like myself that's in agriculture, well, I'm buying a lot of dollars worth of stuff. Well, I mean, I work on razor thin margins. What if those things are taxed on a sales tax? That would kill us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, so what do those exemptions look like? I don't know.
Too early to tell.
Too early to tell. But
maybe moving to U.S. Greenland, the state of Greenland, to start farming over there. You can start farming sheep or whatever they do.
Maybe we can hunt something. Can you hunt something there?
I don't know, dude. Elk and oh my gosh, what was it? Joe Rogan. They talked about it. I almost said Madagascar. It's clearly not Madagascar. Is it the Mongols like Mongolia? Is that right? Don't know. Anyhow, they have like essentially Rocky Mountain elk over there, like where the Mongols will cut your head off, or did cut your head off, or killed 90% of the population, or whatever kind of thing. But yeah, they have elk over there.
I went to Marfa, Texas on an elk hunt.
Where's that at?
That's like Mexico / Texas, on the very west side and south. Free range. Killed a big elk.
When was that?
September.
Oh, this year?
Yeah. And the guy I was with killed a much bigger elk. Crazy. I had no idea that part of Texas existed. like I asked multiple times, like, are we going to a high fence? Because if we are, I'm out.
Yeah.
I shot a big elk one time in a high fence, and I was told before I went, they're like, oh, it's 2,500 acres. You won't even know you're in a fence.
You knew you were in a
Yeah, you knew you're in a fence.
Well, you pet him and love on him and name him.
Yeah, you just about could have. I mean, I swore off that deal. Like I was there. I'd kind of already paid the money, and so I shot the elk. It was like he's over 400 inches. He's a monster, and it wasn't like he was in a 40-acre pen. He really was in a 2,000-acre pen, still in a pen. At any rate, point is, like I quizzed him hard on this deal. I was like, really? Free range Texas? Like, oh yeah, like this is like the mountains. It's rough. It's no way that doesn't exist in Texas. We got there. I was like, my goodness, this is rough.
You have to get drawn for that or
no?
Over the counter tag.
Over the counter tag. Big Rocky Mountain. It's just the southern tip of the Rockies. It was rough. We're on a 90,000 acre ranch.
I did not know that they had elk and
I do big ones.
Wow.
The guy I was with shot a 380 something inch elk.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Mine was like 340.
Okay, 340 inch bull. Like people would crap a brick to be able to kill.
Big elk.
That's a freaking yeah.
So I shot him at 750. But this other guy that I was with, and I actually filmed it, but we called him in from 800, bugling at him, and that dude was on a rope. And he came to us and he shot him at like 65 yards.
Oh my gosh.
It was amazing.
The adrenaline of that, I bet was insane.
Yeah.
So where were you again?
Marfa, Texas.
Marfa, M-A-R-F-A, something like that?
Something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I do have an OCS math education. I never learned how to spell.
Can't spell.
But yeah, Marfa. And it was like, it's one of those things where we were an hour from the asphalt when we were at the camp. 90,000 acres on that ranch. And the roads were
Holy
rough.
smokes.
Yeah. And like, you go over there and look into Mexico, looking in the Rio Grande, you know, that place was just full of illegals. We never saw any, but they said they're everywhere. I believe it.
Yeah.
But hey, if they can survive that, that's pretty tough. So
have you hunted wild elk in like Colorado or in other parts, like in the mountains?
Yeah.
Comparing that to the South Texas, how was it?
The South Texas elk was a lot more fun because they were bugling. You know, we'd hear 12 or 13 bugle back at us, and then we'd start stalking. And the Colorado deal that I did, we didn't have a guide. We just went. It was my buddy Wade, the guy I was talking about earlier that shoots so well on 6 or 8 power, he had hunted there for years and with his dad and friends and whatever. So they had like a main camp, base camp, and then we'd go make camp on the dark side of the mountain. And it was awesome. It was an experience. But up there in Colorado where you're just trying to get it done, it's like if it's a legal bull, you shoot it.
Absolutely.
You know, and we did. But, I mean, it was because of our shooting ability that we got it done. I mean, we hunted in an area that the closest shot was 600 yards. So the elk thought they were protected. They knew nobody could get them. They didn't know that we showed up. I mean,
Louisiana boy brought the smoke, baby.
Yeah, we did. We stayed there for 2 days before opening in the morning. And so we kind of had figured out, we've been watching, been scouting. We knew where they were going. By 11 o'clock, we had 2 dead elk.
But you were with a guide?
No,
y'all were not with a guide.
No, we were by ourselves.
Wow. But is private ground?
No, public.
Is public ground?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get more intel on that.
It was rough.
Oh, really? The terrain?
Oh, yeah.
How'd y'all get them out?
Yeah, that was when it got rough. That was when, like, so, because I'm not real bright, and we're on our way in. I'm looking around. I'm like, how are we going to get these elk out? They're like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We go by this place, and I see, like, these Hispanics, and they got these horses. I said, we need to stop and talk to those people. Like, we need to hire them. Oh, we'll be fine. Well, we shoot these 2 elk within 2 hours of each other on the side of a mountain, and we have to get them out of there. And it was like after dark, from 11 o'clock to after dark, getting these 2 elk out. And I swore off of not having some sort of pack mule lined up if you're going to go.
So you quartered them up, you did everything, and you packed them.
Yes, and we threw them over our shoulders in meat sacks.
Cam Haynes it.
And walked them out. It was hell. I mean, it was awful. And, I mean, here we are, overweight from, flat grounders, and we're at 10,000 feet. I mean, walk from here to the road and you're like, I got to break.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean,
how far did you have to carry them out?
Oh gosh. I don't, it was
a long ways though.
It was a long
You don't want to do it again.
No.
So you would go and get the guys on the horses to.
Yeah. Probably the thing to do is just get a guide.
Yeah.
Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pay them their money. That's what they get, you know, but we didn't. So it was a life lesson. It was a good time. So, in hindsight, I mean, I'm really glad we did it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it like that again.
You going back this year there? With the guide?
No, probably not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to, but I want to do something different too.
Yeah.
Just kind of go do something a little different. So.
Yeah. Nice. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. I don't know how long we've been going. We started an hour and 53 minutes ago. So we chit-chatted a few minutes before we got started. So we've been rolling for a little while.
Well, good.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it went by a lot faster than I thought, and hopefully I don't sound like a blooming idiot.
No. I mean, it's just good old boy conversation is what it is. We coming in, we don't know what we're going to talk about. I mean, we know for the most part we're going to talk about rifles and stuff like that, but who would have thought we were talking about South Texas, 90,000 acre free range public ground with elk that both of you killed. You said his was how big?
380 something.
380 and 340 in 2 hours.
Well, we killed the free range ones in Colorado was a 2 hour deal. I killed mine on one day. He killed his on the next in
Texas. Okay, yes. Gotcha.
So I shot mine one afternoon. He shot his the next morning.
Yeah, I've got to look into. I'm gonna get some more intel on that and information on that one before we leave here in a minute. I want to know more about that, like of who to contact. And I mean, I know you didn't go through a guide, but I want to.
We did in South Texas. We didn't in Colorado.
So South Texas was a guide.
South Texas was a guide.
Okay, I heard you wrong. So I thought that was y'all didn't do it.
No, sorry. South Texas, we had a guide.
Okay.
Colorado, we did not have a guide. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
I'm sure you did. You're good.
No.
Just shooting all them years unsuppressed is what it is.
Yeah, before we got into suppressors, I don't hear well. And look, thanks for putting that out publicly because my wife needs to hear that. Huh? She thinks I ignore her.
Do what?
Yeah, there you go, huh?
Yeah, Jacqueline does it too. But she talks like this.
Yeah.
So Jacqueline's probably not listening, but this is how I'll be in the kitchen doing something or in the back of the house or wherever. I'll be in there in my office and they're editing or something like that, which I already have the audio up pretty loud for the videos and stuff like that. And she'll be in there in the, 2,000 square foot on the other side of the house. And she'll say, and I don't answer because I don't hear. She's like, babe, did you hear me? I was like, what? She's like, I'm like, what? She's like, I've already said it 2 times. I'm like, well, bro, I can't hear you.
So that's not my problem. My problem is that I can only do one thing at a time. And so if I'm reading a text or Facebook or you name it, anything to do with this cellular device, I zone out.
That's all you can do.
That's all I can do. I can't hear. I can't talk. I can't talk and text. I can walk and text. And so like, she literally thinks I'm ignoring her when the truth is I heard nothing. And it was plenty loud. It just didn't register. And then it's like she gets to the end. I'm like, golly, she just said a lot of something. I missed it all. And then the wrath's coming.
Just be prepared, baby.
Be prepared. I'm real sorry.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. So I know there's no handles or no social media that you're pushing or anything, but 18 Precision, that's something. So go check Brian Allen out. 18 Precision, you can go check them out. If you want a custom rifle, I mean, it's not saying because he's a local boy and he's a friend of ours, but there's more people out of Louisiana that say that he is the best in the country when it comes to building them some guns. So
yeah, he does a great job.
Yep.
So he does, and a good guy.
Yep.
And he'll take care of you. He'll talk you through these conversations we've had, and it's always good.
I want to get him on. I'd love to get you and we need another mic, but you, your dad, Patrick, and Brian. It'd be fun.
That'd be a riot.
That would be hilarious.
We've done some stuff together. That would be a riot.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Appreciate you coming on, guys. Right. SpottedDogSportingGoods.com. Free orders or free shipping on orders, $99 or more. So go check that out. New website. And this podcast, it really is. This is pushing online sales, not pushing, but just going and having inventory and stuff online for people to go shop that we talk about these things. Plus customer service down there is out of this world good. Yeah.
You guys are doing good.
So suppressor wait times, they're down crazy low. So
I just have a lot, so they probably just looking at me.
They're still pissed at you for firing you. You didn't go and return your stuff. You kept them yourself. So. All right, appreciate you, homie.
All right,
bye everybody.
Bye.